Road racing season is in full swing, and from the half marathon to the marathon, we are seeing a lot of action right now. But there's something very interesting going on with the 2024 United States Olympic Trials, one of the biggest events in the United States for the marathon. And it's something that really shouldn't be happening, but the frustration from the athletes to the racing organization is getting out of hand. So let's take a deep dive into this rather dysfunctional situation. So for quite a while now, athletes have known that the 2024 Olympic Trials for the marathon are taking place in Orlando, Florida, which is already a little bit questionable because the heat can get pretty high down there. But what's really made the athletes worried is the fact that the starting time is at 12 o'clock noon. And while this race is in February, we have seen that over the previous few seasons, temperatures can often be right around 70 degrees at the starting line, which is a huge problem because in the marathon, racing 26.2 miles with temperatures from 70 to 80 degrees is not conducive to a fast time, but it's also not conducive to a safe race. With potential danger from runners having to compete in very hot weather and in very humid weather, might I add, because this is Florida, athletes have taken it upon themselves to communicate with USATF and the Orlando race organizations, and they actually had a meeting where they said it was very respectful. There was a decent amount of productive talk, but recently, what Orlando themselves have said is just downright ridiculous. Now, I can't say that I'm an expert in racing organizations, or for that matter, politics that go into such things, but apparently, the Greater Orlando Sports Group delivered shocking news that if they were to try to change the time from noon to 10 or 9 in the morning or any other hour, fines and waived rights fees would total $700,000. Now, this is not a small amount of money, especially when we're talking about Olympic trials for the United States here. And I wanted to leave a quote from a few different athletes on exactly what this made them feel. Now, from the athletes themselves, they said it is difficult to find words capable of expressing how angry and disappointed the athletes are to hear the ultimate hurdle they face is with the Great Orlando Sports Commission, a group who so grossly misrepresented the type of experience they were to provide. Now, the letter that originally went to Orlando and other groups expressing concern was signed by Jared Ward, Will Lear, and Emma Grace Hurley. And these athletes are actually on the Athlete Advisory Committee, so they certainly do have a lot of experience and know-how as to how these races should unfold. Now, it's also important to mention that this strongly worded letter was sent to Max Siegel, who is the current president and CEO of USATF. But the back and forth from USATF and Orlando and the athletes is just super confusing. There is a complete lack of transparency as to what exactly is going on, and at the end of the day, this noon start time probably should have never been the agreed upon time in the first place. Now, Jared Ward, in my mind, strikes me as an absolute legend. He said that they are looking for some answers as to why $700,000 is the current price tag. He's asking about where this number comes from in order to come up with some solutions. We really are trying to seek a win-win. This sport is tough, and we want local organizing committees to win. We also want athletes to win. And so we're just looking for a seat at the table as we help work out what are the costs associated with moving the trials earlier and how we can overcome them. Now, another group that is a part of this whole debacle here is the Track Shack of Orlando, which is the logistics arm of Orlando's organizing committee. And they actually wrote back to the athletes saying that on multiple occasions, USATF themselves said that the start time of noon was non-negotiable. As you can probably tell, there is a decent amount of misinformation and I think lack of communication. And while it is totally possible the one party is misrepresenting what another party said, it really seems to me like a lot of this misinformation goes back to USATF themselves. One problem that I wanted to point out is that the original two cities with the 2024 Marathon Trials bid were Chattanooga, Tennessee, and also Orlando, Florida. Now, the reason that I think USATF potentially could be in the wrong here is because the CEO, Max Siegel, actually disqualified Chattanooga because of a conflict of interest of a board member. And that board member, Jim Estes, has actually filed a lawsuit against USATF over the disqualification and damage to his reputation. This really cuts deep. I mean, there are layers upon layers upon layers to this issue, but the main problem here at hand is boiling down to the safety of the athletes on the day. There is a reason why the marathon majors start their marathons in the morning. That's because you do not want to start a race in the afternoon when it does get the hottest on any given day. I really do hope that this entire situation can get resolved, and I really do hope that the time can move a little bit earlier. And I also did want to point out that while most athletes do say that they want an earlier start time for safety, there are a few athletes that don't mind the noon start time. And these athletes include Des Linden, Molly Seidel, and Galen Rupp. And while I think that some people might have the ability to compete better in the heat, I think overall for the safety of the athletes and for the safety of just finishing the race, it would probably be a good idea to move this race to between 8 and 10 in the morning. But that is just my opinion, and I would love to hear from all of you on the matter. What do you think about this entire situation, and what do you think about the starting time being at noon in Florida? Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, until next time.